Welcome to the second video in the Intermediate Excel module. In this video, we're going to focus more on VLOOKUPs, which will help us with diving a little bit deeper into our pivot tables, which we'll do in the third video. Let's go to our data set. We're picking back up where we left off. We have this nice pivot table here, but I want to go back to the original data. I'm going to use a VLOOKUP because I want to pull the data from this company info tab here, where I have company name, CEO, risk level, and I have this ticker symbol. I want to pull some of that data into this stock data tab. In the pivot table right now, all I have to reference the stock is the ticker symbol. If I don't have the stock's ticker symbol memorized, or if my users don't have the ticker symbol memorized, then this pivot table is not actually very useful. To help with that, we can pull in the company and name associated with each ticker symbol. I'm going to use a VLOOKUP to do that. Let's go to the Stock Data tab. In this case, I have data in the Company Info tab, which is company name, that I want to pull over into the Stock Data tab. The unique identifier that is in both sets of data is ticker symbol here. So I have that in this Company Info tab, and I have it on the Stock Data tab. So that unique identifier is the same on both tabs. I want to try to tell Excel to pull the company name into the Stock Data tab by matching the ticker symbols. So I want it to basically find that ticker symbol. Our first one was TGT. I want it to find that ticker symbol that's right here in this tab, and then tell me what company name is associated with that. So what Excel is going to do is fill in the company name in a new column that we're going to add right there. Let's do it together. First, I need to go look at the company info tab and make sure everything's in order here. I want to match the ticker symbol, I want to match that data from the two tabs. The value we want to match in the VLOOKUP is called a lookup value. So I'm going to start using that term, and we'll come back to it to make sure it's in your notes. But that lookup value is the ticker symbol, the one that we're going to match across the two data sets. A rule with VLOOKUPs is that the lookup value needs to be to the left of the data you want to pull over. So in this case, we want to pull company name over. So the ticker symbol would need to be to the left of company name. That lookup value does not have to be the first column in the spreadsheet. So if you have a really large data set, you don't have to move that value all the way over to the left. It just has to be at least one column to the left of the data you want to pull. So you could have 10 columns first, and then ticker symbol, and then company name, and that's okay. You just can't have company name to the left of ticker symbol. So the lookup value also has to be the first column you select when you're telling Excel in which table you want it to find the data. I'll show you that part in a minute. So the point is here, we need to move ticker symbol over to the left of company name. To do that, I'm just going to insert a column to the left of company name, and I'm going to cut and paste ticker symbol over to the left there. Now, ticker symbol is to the left of the data I'm trying to pull, which is company name. So our table here is set up well to do a VLOOKUP. Now let's go back to the Stock Data tab. In the Stock Data tab, I want to add a column for company name next to ticker symbol. We could put this column anywhere in this spreadsheet. It just makes sense to me to put it right here. So let's put it right in between, right after ticker symbol. We'll just label it company name. The next thing we want to do is actually enter the VLOOKUP function. So I would enter equals VLOOKUP, and if you start typing, you can tab over. The function is asking me to enter a few variables. Before we do this in Excel, let's jump over to PowerPoint and go a little bit deeper into each of these variables that you see here: lookup value, table array, column index, and range lookup. Here, I copied over that VLOOKUP function and the variables it's asking us to enter. And we have here each of those variables, or that Excel lingo. Let's walk through the translation of each of these. The lookup value is the identifier or the value I want to match across two tables. I put identifier or value here because the VLOOKUP is not always a unique value. It could be a social security number, which is a unique value. It could also be a sales number, and you want to indicate customers with sales between this range are high priority customers, or medium priority customers, or low priority customers. In that case, we're looking at more of a value rather than a unique identifier, and we'll talk about some examples of that as we go through the video. So the lookup value is the identifier or the value I want to match across two tables. In the file we're working with today, that's the ticker symbol, and on that first line, that's specifically the target or TGT ticker symbol. The next thing Excel wants me to enter is called a table array. The table array is just the table that contains the data I want to pull over. In this data set, that's going to be the table on the company info tab. So I'm going to highlight the contents that are in that table. Next, I need to fill in the column index number. The column index number is the number of the column with the data you want. You're actually going to hard code the column number. And you're just going to count from left to right, from where you started that table array, the data that you selected, from left to right, just 1, 2, 3, 4. So in this data set, the column we're going to pull data from this time is column 2. That was where our company name was held, was in the second column. We had ticker symbol first, and then company name in the second column. Finally, we need to tell Excel about the characteristic of the range that we're looking at. There's two options here, either true, which is a close match, or false, which is an exact match. In this case, we want to use false. We want an exact match. So I only want target to populate as the company name if the ticker symbol is TGT, exactly. If we had a ticker symbol for a different company in there, or if we had coded the ticker symbol wrong and it was TST, if we use true, Excel would populate TST with target because it's the closest match. But I don't want that. I only want it to populate target if the ticker symbol is exactly TGT. I use false often when I'm building a VLOOKUP because I'm oftentimes matching exact data. So I might be matching a student's identification number. You might be matching a customer number or an order number with something from a different data set. Those would be cases where you'd want to use false, an exact match. Let's look at an example of when you would use true. I only use true if I'm trying to get Excel to label something in a range. For example, if I want all customers between 1,000 and 2,000 to be labeled as Texas customers, maybe that's the coding convention I've used, then I can set up a table like this. And I maybe want all customers from 2,000 to 3,000 to be labeled Louisiana, 3,000 to 4,000 Oklahoma, and so on. I can use true at the end of that VLOOKUP to have Excel look at the range. Everything between 1,000 and 2,000 is Texas. So if it was false, then only 1,000 customers with a code of 1,000 exactly would be labeled Texas. Customers with 2,000 exactly would be labeled Louisiana. But if I use true, then everything between 1,000 and 2,000 is Texas. Everything between 2,000 and 3,000 is Louisiana. So I don't have to specify that 2001, 2002, 2003, 2,233, that if a customer has a number like that, that starts with 2 and has 3 numbers to follow, it should be labeled Louisiana. By using true, I'm telling Excel I want it to consider that range, all of the numbers in between 2,000 and 3,000. It's a really handy feature, but not what we want here. Since I want Excel to match the exact ticker symbol and not just the closest one, I'm going to use false in this case. Let's go back to the Excel file now and enter the VLOOKUP function and the required variables. So in this B2 cell, I want to enter equals VLOOKUP, And the first variable I want to grab is the lookup value. Remember, this is the ticker symbol. It's the data that can be found in both data sets. So it's how I'm going to match up the data. And I'm just going to cell reference to cell A2 for this row. I need to enter a comma to lock in cell A2. Then I want to select the table array. The table array is the table where the data I want to pull over can be found. And so I need to select the company info tab here. And then I want to highlight just the data here. That doesn't matter so much when I'm using false, but it will matter when I'm using true. So go ahead and just highlight the meat of that table, the data, and not the column headers. And I also want to use an absolute reference here. So I'm going to go ahead and push F4 or the shortcut that you have for adding those dollar signs in for absolute reference. If you aren't familiar with absolute reference still, go back to those basic Excel videos that were optional. So I'm going to put the absolute reference in, put a comma to lock in that table array. If I move my mouse or click on something else before I put in that comma, it's going to move, so I want to lock that in. And then the next variable I need to enter is the column index number. And that's literally just 1, 2, 3, 4, because we started selecting the data in column A, so that was our first column, column B is our second column. Since column B contains the company name, which is the data we want to pull, I'm going to tell Excel column 2. And then this is where I need to enter true or false. I'm going to select false and close my parentheses, and again false because I want an exact match. Close the parentheses and hit enter. And now Excel will pull the word target from the company info tab into the stock data tab. Let's look at this formula again. Cell A2 here is a variable reference. So when I copy this formula down, it's going to keep going all the way down, which is what I want. Because I want it to pull cell A2, I want it to keep going down. Once it gets to cell B63, I want it to start pulling cell A63 of Starbucks. So I do need that to keep going down, so having a relative reference there is good. So that's a relative reference. But I have an absolute reference for the company name info because when I copy down one row or multiple rows, I don't want this to move. I don't want this table to move. I want it to always be locked in on that data and not go down a row or multiple rows, and then it won't be selecting that table anymore. So relative reference on the A2, absolute reference on the company info. That all looks good. So now I can just double click in the corner and it will copy that formula all the way down. So now it's pulling Starbucks when I have the SBUX ticker symbol, Netflix, Apple. It looks like it's working really well here. Since we have our VLOOKUP in place, I'm going to give you a little bit of an assignment to work on your own and then stop the video here. I want you to try another VLOOKUP on your own. I want you to create a VLOOKUP that adds risk level to the stock data tab. So we're going to create a new column here. Let's label it risk level. And then I want you to create a VLOOKUP that pulls risk level from this tab related to the ticker symbol over to this tab. So another VLOOKUP that would do that. You could copy and paste that VLOOKUP we just created over, but I want you to start from scratch and make sure that you're comfortable with each of the variables that go into the VLOOKUP. I'll also warn you, I made up these risk levels, so please don't make any trading decisions based on them. But go ahead and complete that risk level, and it will help us enhance our pivot table from video 1 as we move into the final video. If you're struggling with the VLOOKUP for risk level, I have created a video 2B for you to follow along with me or to check your work. But I strongly recommend you try it on your own and rewatch this video if you need some additional support.